for the service. Bishop Jackson presented the preacher. The annual sermon was presented by the Reverend Stephen Smith, pastor of Lofton A.M.E. Circuit in Rennes, Georgia. His sermon text was 1 Samuel 17, 32 through 37, the subject accepting the challenge. The business session was called to order by Bishop Jackson at 2:29 p.m. He asked who was the secretary for the annual conference last year. Reverend McFadden stated Reverend Pamela Hobbs. Bishop Jackson stated that if there's no objection, until we have the organization of the conference, I will ask the secretary from last year to preside for now. Reverend Pamela Hobbs read the roll call for the 108th session. Reverend Richie Williams was added to the roll, and Reverend to transfer into the conference. All the superannuated present were asked to please stand. They were Reverend Evelyn Johnson, Reverend Margaret Arnold, Reverend Bernard Crawford, Reverend Barbara Knox, Reverend Miles Walker, and Reverend Norris Waters. Bishop thanked them for coming. Reverend Pamela Hobbs added that presiding elder Samuel sent a letter with her desire not to be removed from the rolls. Bishop Jackson said to reassure her that she would not be removed. Elder Samuels is working hard in the 2nd Episcopal District in North Carolina. The lay delegates, Bishop Jackson asked the lay delegates for the Augusta North to stand. Bishop Jackson requested that the presiding elder, Tony Beelan Ingram, certify that they are the duly elected delegates for the Augusta North District. The Augusta South lay delegates were asked to stand. Presiding elder Billy G. McFadden certified the duly elected delegates for the Augusta North District. Roll call ended. Bishop Jackson called for the organization of the annual conference by the presiding elders, Reverend Dr. Tony Beelan Ingram and Reverend Billy McFadden. The administrative staff, recording secretary, Reverend Pamela Eason Hobbs, assistant secretary, Reverend Rosetta Johnson Mackey, statistical secretary, Reverend Amos Darasaw. Motion to approve by Reverend Augusta Hall Jr. and second by Reverend Stephen Smith. The motion carried. The marshals, the Reverend Terry Patterson, the chief marshal, Reverend Nokomis Jones, the bishop's marshal, Reverend Samuel Cooper, Reverend George Best. Motion by Reverend Augusta Hall Jr. and second by Reverend Samuel Tompkins. The motion carried. The Finance Committee, Reverend Augusta Hall Jr., Reverend Shakibi Holman, Reverend Brian Hart, Reverend David Luke, Brother Timothy Stockton, Brother Eugene Love, Sister Erin Cave, Sister Sandy Brown. Motion by Reverend James Lawson and second by Reverend David Luke. The motion carried. The conference. Reverend Shakibi Holman, Reverend David Luke, Reverend Brian Hart, Reverend Stephen Smith, Reverend Pamela Hobbs, Reverend Patricia Wilder, Brother Arthur Stone, Sister Sandy Brown, Brother George Best, Brother Timothy Stockton, Sister Lena Nakadu, Brother Eugene Love, Sister Erin Cave, Sister Elisa Norris, Brother Willie Farrell, Sister Brittany Thompson, Reverend Terry Patterson. Motion by Reverend Augusta Hall Jr., second by Reverend Stephen Smith. The motion carried. Bishop Jackson officially declared the following persons members of the Ministerial Efficiency Committee: Reverend Daniel Thomas Jr., Chair, Reverend Rose Johnson Mackey, Reverend Eddie Walker III, Reverend Pamela Hobbs, and Reverend Dr. G. Diane Lewis. Bishop Jackson declared the 108th session of the Augusta, Georgia Conference officially in session. Bishop called for those who were visiting the conference during the desiring to serve the church and the community. Before their appeal, he called for greetings from Dr. Thomas Best, who serves the Connectional Judicial Committee. The following addressed the 108th session. Charlie Bailey, who is running for Lieutenant Governor in the state of Georgia. D. Dawkins Hagler, running for Secretary of State. Dr. Jeffrey Cooper, candidate for Episcopal office. Dr. Barbara Chisholm, Elder C. Reagan Merrick, C. Reagan Merrick, and C. Reagan Merrick. A report of the Board of Examiners. Dean Augusta Hall Jr. thanked Bishop Jackson and members of the 108th session of the Augusta Annual Conference. Reverend David Walker as Secretary and Assistant Dean. Dean Hall asked all the members of the Board of Examiners for this conference year to come forward. Reverend James Lawson, Reverend Pamela Hobbs, Reverend Rosetta Johnson Mackey, and Reverend Shakibi Holman. Dean Hall shared with the conference that the board is thankful for the opportunity to serve. They have wholeheartedly given themselves over to the preparation for ministry. The board met due diligence, meeting for 12 sessions instead of 8. Reverend David Walker read the Board of Examiners report and recommendations, calling students from the following classes. Class on Admissions, Reverend Sister Angela Booker and Sister Geraldine Hill recommended to receive evangelist license. A motion by Dean Augusta Hall Jr. and second by Reverend James Lawson. The motion carried. The class on first year studies, none. Class on second year studies, none. Class on third year studies, Reverend Sarita Holman and Reverend Alvin Jenkins. The itinerant track, the board recommended to continue in seminary studies and be passed to fourth year studies. Motion by Dean Augusta Hall Jr. and second by Reverend Shakibi Holman. The motion carried. The class on fourth year studies, Reverend Geraldine Smith Hudson, Reverend Sharon Buxton. The itinerant track, the Board of Examiners recommends that Reverend Geraldine Smith Hudson and Reverend Sharon Buxton remain on fourth year studies until acceptance and successful completion of the certificate program at Turner Theological Seminary or completion of a Master of Divinity degree. The motion by Reverend Augusta Hall Jr. and second by Reverend James Lawson. The motion carried. Reverend Stephanie Parks has withdrawn from the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Presiding Elder Billy McFadden recommended that Reverend Minnie Pitts be recommended for itinerant ministry because of her dedication and proof of ministry in the A.M.E. Church. Bishop Jackson stated that a certificate will be provided on tomorrow. Bishop Jackson remarked that the Augusta Conference will not be ordaining anyone. He said that it is stunning that the Southwest Georgia Conference and now the Augusta Conference, that there are not 10 people in the Ministerial Training Institute. There are a lot of locals supplying our churches because you do not have itinerant ministers. Tonight, when I'm going over the appointments for the conference on both districts, some appointments will be in the hands of the elders. Report given by Reverend A.M.E. Davis, A.M.E. Davis, Dean of Turner Theological Seminary. Reverend Curtis A. Andrews gave chaplain annual conference report. He told the body that he has been deployed and will be leaving on Thursday. Presiding Elder Tony Beelan Ingram provided the Augusta North District pastor's report via video. Reverend Brian Hart asked the Augusta North District to stand on behalf of the entire district. He thanked Presiding Elder Ingram for her leadership and requested that the bishop reappoint Elder Ingram back as presiding elder for the Augusta North District for the next conference year. Bishop Jackson stated, on behalf of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, let me thank the presiding elder, the consultant, the clergy, and leadership for your hard work you have done this past conference year to support the ministry and mission of the church, that without your commitment and your support, the A.M.E. Church would not be able to fulfill its mission. The bishop does not take for granted what you do and realizes that sometimes what the church asks of you to do makes it difficult to do what you seek to do in your local church, but you remain faithful, steadfast, and unmovable. And so thank you for all that you have done and continue to do. And Bishop Jackson asks that we give the church a hand. Presiding Elder Billy McFadden provided the Augusta South District Pastor's Report via video. Reverend Augusta Hall Jr. asked the Augusta South District to come up front. He commended the leadership of Presiding Elder Billy McFadden. On behalf of the entire district, he requested that the bishop reappoint Presiding Elder McFadden to the Augusta South District. A song with a fellowship was led by Reverend Stephen Smith. Bishop Jackson stated, on behalf of the A.M.E. Church, let me thank the presiding elder, the consultant, the clergy, and leadership for the work past conference year to support the ministry and mission of the church, and that without your commitment and support, the A.M.E. Church would not be able to fulfill its mission. Bishop Jackson stated, as I stand to the Augusta North, and let me say to the Augusta South, this bishop does not take for granted what you do and realizes that sometimes what the church asks you to do makes it difficult for you to seek to do in your local church, but you remain faithful, steadfast, and unmovable. And so thank you for all that you have done and continue to do. The bishop asks to see the Ministerial Efficiency Committee. The meeting adjourned at 5:32 p.m. The Women in Ministry Service, Reverend Dr. Tony Beelan Ingram presided. Bishop Jackson presented the preacher. The sermon was delivered by the Reverend Dr. Wilhelmina Jordan, the pastor of the Davisboro Circuit. Her text, Matthew 15:22 through 28. The subject, Lord have mercy on me. To the bishop and officers, presiding elders, this is not the version that we intended to give to you this morning. Technology complications, but you will receive the corrected copy.
All right, you heard the minutes. What is the pleasure of the body?
So move, Bishop, that the record minutes be accepted with the necessary corrections and adjustments.
All right. All right, probably moving second. Let me give a couple of those. It should be the Southwest Conference and the Georgia Conference. Neither one of them had an ordination ceremony.
All righty.
All right. You heard the motion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Thank you so much. Let me thank the committee for the minutes, our staff. Madam Secretary, you have a copy of the conference roll. Call the roll, please.
From the beginning, sir.
Yes.
Bishop Reginald T. Jackson,
Present.
Mrs. Christy Davis Jackson, Esquire,
Excused.
Reverend Dr. Tony Ingram, Reverend Billy McFadden, Reverend itinerant elders, Reverend Curtis Andrews,
He's leaving.
he's,
Mark him excused.
okay, Reverend Maria Black, Reverend Samuel Cooper, Reverend Willie Crew, Reverend Amos Darrell, Reverend Lisa B. Davis,
Absent.
Reverend Minnie Davis, Reverend Melvin Farmer, Reverend Jeffrey Germany, thank you.
Absent.
Absent. Reverend Augusta Hall Jr.,
Excuse him to go to the bank.
Reverend Brian A. Hart, Reverend Pamela Hobbs here, Reverend Shakibi Holman, Reverend Clarence Jackson, Reverend James Jenkins, Reverend Shakita Johnson,
All right.
Reverend Nokomis Jones, Reverend Willenema Jordan, Reverend James Lawson, Reverend Dr. G. Diane Lewis,
Excused.
Reverend David Luke,
He's assisted his wife to put that minister spouses.
All right. Excused.
Reverend Rosetta Johnson Mackey, Reverend Tammy McFadden, Reverend Terry Patterson, Reverend Dennis Roberts,
Absent.
Reverend Stephen Smith, Reverend Daniel Thomas Jr., Reverend Samuel Tompkins, Reverend David Walker, Reverend Eddie Walker III,
All right.
Reverend Patricia Wilder,
Absent.
Reverend Richie Williams,
All right.
and Reverend Matthew Roberts,
Reverend Maggie Roberts. Absent.
itinerant deacons, Reverend Sharon Buxton, Reverend Geraldine Smith Hudson,
Absent.
Reverend Sarita Walker Holman, Reverend Alvin Jenkins,
Alvin Jenkins. Absent.
local elders,
Alvin Jenkins is also a school teacher.
Yeah, he's at school.
All right. Were any of these school teachers here yesterday?
yes, he was here. He was here yesterday.
All right, go ahead.
Reverend, local elders, Reverend Bobby Boyd,
She's in the hallway.
Absent. What's she doing in the hallway?
Registration.
Oh, okay, she's already excused.
Reverend Kenneth Brown,
He took his wife to the doctor this morning, Bishop. He'll be back in.
All right, go ahead.
Reverend Roy Collins, Reverend Laverne Gresham Comer, Reverend John Crawford,
Crawford. Absent.
Reverend Christopher Davis,
Absent.
Reverend Nellie Merriweather, Reverend Elaine Pate,
She's still Bishop post-surgery.
All right.
Reverend Minnie Pitts,
She answered earlier, did she?
that was Minnie Davis.
How many? No. All right, absent.
Reverend Rose Reynolds,
Absent.
Reverend Jimmy Roberts, local deacons, Reverend Stephanie Parks is moved from the roll. Yeah. Reverend Geraldine Rawls,
All right. All of the delegates of the local churches on the North District, please stand.
the delegates for the North District.
All right, you may be seated. All the delegates from the Augusta South. All right, you may be seated. My brother says the reason I did this is because this is the annual conference. It meets once a year. And one of the things I'm concerned about is that the morning session begin at 9:30, and I specifically make it 9:30 to give people a chance and opportunity to make sure they're here. And so when we began the minutes of the session this morning, there were a handful of people here. In fact, there's slightly more. Yes.
I'm here to be the board.
All right, mark her here. And so those who are not here, when they come in, if I miss them, tell them they need to come see me. All right? But we should be in the annual conference. I'm sensitive to those who are teachers, and I know some of them sent me notes that they're doing testing this week. But if you're a teacher and could be here yesterday, I'm hoping you could be here today. If you were going to be ordained today, I think you'd be here. So, and I just want people to understand that the annual conference is important. A lot of us are bivocational, but I want you to know your ministry ought to at least be as important, and I think more important than your other vocation. The Apostle Paul was bivocational. He was a tent maker, but his ministry came first. And so I just want, let me say, this is not just a problem with the Augusta conference. This is a problem with all the conferences. We have really got to make people understand that the annual conference is important. All right?
Bishop?
Yes, sir, Elder McFadden.
I certainly agree with your sentiment, and I support it wholeheartedly. However, for the record, please acknowledge Dennis Roberts, who is a school teacher, and I believe he touched base.
He sent me a note. Yeah, I marked him.
For that reason.
Good morning, Bishop.
Yes, Reverend Wilder, how you feeling?
I'm pressing real good, Bishop. How you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing tolerably well.
Well, accept my apologies. I was up and ready, but I just took a little time to get here.
I understand. Thank you. It's good seeing you. All right. Yes, sir, Reverend Stephen Smith.
Bishop, I'm here. I'm gonna wait till I get back.
If they don't wait, please don't tell me. My.
Bishop,
Yes,
Reverend Pitt, I'm here.
I saw you when you came in. Mark Reverend Pitts present. All right, tell all the brothers and the sisters, if they can be here on time for the appointments, they can be here on time for the business session. All right? All right. Ready for the committee report, state of the country. Who's the chairperson? Who's the chairperson on state of the country?
I think, Reverend.
All right, Reverend Thomas. Reverend Thomas, if you can give us the recommendations, I want to tell you, reason I called y'all first, I read y'all's report. It's a very good and exhaustive report. The reports are in your booklet, and I think you should really read this report that Reverend Thomas and this committee put together. It is a
It's in the
complete
booklet.
and good report, and I want to thank you for the time. You can tell you put some time and effort into it.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning.
Our democracy at a pivot point. As Americans, as an American democracy, I'm going to just summarize this.
Yes,
Okay.
please, summarize.
As Americans, we have solidly and historically pledged allegiance to uphold and honor the descriptive words of our Constitution as a living document, as well as honor the expressions of rights and freedoms that are enshrined in our Bill of Rights. But today, our democracy is under siege as we observe the erosion of democratic norms and respect for institutional civility, continuous corrosion, racial inequality in employment and economic status, and a concerted, conscious assault on the voting rights of marginalized citizens. Therefore, America is at a critical junction as we seek to model the ideal democracy stated in these documents. As Americans, we have historically gallantly fought and lived through the eras of Civil War, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, and the Civil Rights movement as we continue to forge our concept of a more perfect union in our hard-fought journey to ensure liberty and justice for all. However, today, domestically, the sad reality is the fact that we're still in that fight. The now Trump-led GOP Republican Party has made mainstream Republicans turn into the worst selves and given pro-Trump enthusiasts a platform to show their true selves, which we all observed in the confirmation hearing of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. As Americans, we should no longer allow the public display and events to become battlegrounds for conspiracy and culture war theories that illustrate the toxic and growing political divide in our nation. We must take a moment to absorb the significance of the fact that Judge Jackson, when confirmed, now confirmed, will be only the sixth woman and the first black female in the 230-year history to serve in this judicial prestigious position
friends of Augusta Annual Conference. First, let me begin by saying I invited everyone who was on the committee to submit their input and their own report if they wanted to. So I want to submit what Pastor Jordan had sent into the record, and I will give it to the secretary. All right. State of the church. The African Methodist Episcopal Church is experiencing a credibility crisis. Though many are leveraging technology to stay connected, in 2020, 69% said the black pastors were the most important voices in the community. Black pastors are said to have a trivocal voice of prophet, priest, and sage. Rising violent crimes, gender dysphoria, etc. While quick to claim victimization of racism, the church's voice suffers from laryngitis on issues such as the disintegration of the nuclear family, abortion, LGBT, sex trafficking, hypersexualizing our children, crime-ridden communities, and perpetual failing school systems. Has the Church of Allen lost its spiritual identity? It is past time for the church to step up and to hear and heed the voice of God and not political parties, political correctness, or political convenience. Perhaps like the church of Ephesus, we left our first love, but we must return to the old landmark and go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything Jesus has commanded us. So here's the recommendation. First, affirm whether the Bible is our final authority. And if so, have an earnest doctrinal discussion on not just what we believe, but why we believe it. Second, instead of always feasting at our meetings, try the spiritual discipline of a 12-hour fast, coupled with prayer, praise, and meditation. Then may we once again experience the saving and liberating power of God. This is the state of the church submitted by the committee.
All right, you've heard the report on the state of the church. What is the pleasure of the body?
Bishop, we'll move that report be accepted.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Are you ready for the question? All right, let me ask a couple questions. At the general conference, did the church take positions on the nuclear family, abortion, and failing school system?
The only thing I recall is they're supposed to revisit the LGBTQ issue in 2024.
Okay. Let me say, one of the unfortunate things about the general conference was that because of the shortness of it, the papers which were prepared on these issues were not discussed at all, which I think is extremely unfortunate. But in those papers on the issues of the nuclear family, the A.M.E. Church did express our concern. We lifted up the fact that 67% of black families are headed by one parent, which is not the nuclear family. It also means that many of our children are really being not only severely disadvantaged, but emotionally disadvantaged because of one-parent households. And I do think we need to say more of that, more about that. And one of the things I keep emphasizing is the most important thing we have, in fact, is our family. And I am extremely concerned that 67% of our families are headed by a single parent, and most of them, that single parent is female. And I repeat again that single mom trying to raise 3 children want to know, what does the church have to offer that's going to help her in the raising of her children? On the issue of abortion, the church did take a position that while we do not propose, encourage abortion, we felt that the right to choose ought to remain. And we were especially concerned where most of the laws coming from some states do not even consider abortion in the case of rape or where the life of the mother is at risk. And so that is our position, and some of you have heard me say my own position is I do not think we should encourage abortion, but that is also, I believe, that mother and father's decision to make. One of my concerns with some of my conservative friends is they keep harping about government ought not be involved in people's individual lives, but you cannot get more involved in somebody's individual life when you tell a mother or a father by law, abortion is not a simple or an easy matter, and in fact, I think the same discussion we have related to abortion is the same discussion we ought to have on capital punishment. I don't think we should be so much concerned only about life in the womb and then not have any regard for life outside the womb. And then on the issue of failing school systems, education is really the legacy of the church, and that's something we wrote very strongly about. As some of you have heard me say, May and June are tough months for me. I spent 12 years as the chair of the public school system in Orange, New Jersey, and then 11 years as chair of the board of Essex County College. And May and June is a tough time because during those times, particularly among black children, thousands and thousands of our children walk across a stage, get a diploma, but don't have an education. Amen. And so now, what I will say is I'm extremely disappointed that I think the church has been cowardly in not addressing the issue of LGBT. I think it is irresponsible, I think it's cowardly, and I think the church ought to take a position. And the fact of the matter is, while I think the church ought to take a position, I think the church is going to find itself again, stories told about a preacher running down the street trying to catch up with the crowd. And somebody said, Reverend, where you going? He said, I'm trying to catch up with the people I'm supposed to be leading. The problem is, I think, the black church, and I say black church, Baptist, A.M.E, C.M.E, A.M.E Zion, whatever, the world, in a lot of respects, has already decided on this. We the only ones don't want to take a position. In 2010, 67% of Americans were opposed to same-sex marriage. In 2020, another poll came out, 63% of Americans now support same-sex marriage. And I don't think the church should capitulate to the culture, but I do think the church needs to have an honest theological discussion on this issue. I was not pleased with how the General Conference dealt with it. In fact, I was a little peeved because when you all were just getting ready to discuss the issue, I was called before the Episcopal Committee. And when I came back and asked what did y'all do, what would the General Conference do, I was told that they tabled it. And the bad thing about tabling it just like saying let it die. We're not going to kill it, but just leave it on the table. So I think the committee is correct that there are some issues on which the church must address, and I think we must be like the scripture. The scriptures address the whole counsel of God. I think the church must address all of what's going on in our world, not only those that we feel comfortable about. So, all right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you so much. Thank the committee for your report. Thank you so much.
Thank you to serve.
All right. The mission circuits and stations. Mission circuits and stations. All right. Anybody on that committee come forward?
Mission circuits and stations. Bishop, on the Augusta North, we have 14 stations, 5 circuits, no missions, churches. On the Augusta South District, we have 18 stations, 2 circuits, 1 mission. Total 32 station charges, 7 circuits, 1 mission for the Augusta, Georgia Conference. The request, or do you want to go straight to the recommendation?
Go to the recommendations.
The recommendation 1, grant the request of the New Hope A.M.E. Church as a station to go from a circuit to a station status charge. We do have the resolution from their local church, as well as a resolution from the presiding elders quarter. Thank you. Recommendation number 2, St. John A.M.E. Church, Norwood, to be demolished due to disrepair. Recommendation number 3, actually, I apologize, Bishop, but that was changed after this was submitted.
Okay.
That's going to be going into a future status.
All right.
No, I'm sorry, that is right. Right, Presiding Elder? That is correct. I apologize. It's another one at the bottom. Grant the merger of Mount Zion, Bethlehem, and St. James churches. They are approximately within 14-mile radius of one another. The future goals, Coleman Chapel possibly merging with the Burnett Grove A.M.E. Church, the possible viewing and assessing and a growth in the Grovetown area, which is a community right outside of Augusta that is a very high rising and increasing in business and communities in that area. And that last one there is the one that we're dropping as of right now.
All right. Let's take the recommendation Siri item. Grant the request of New Hope A.M.E. Church as station status. Is there a motion?
So moved, Bishop.
Second, Bishop.
All right, you've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All right. Any members of New Hope here? All right. New Hope, are y'all fully satisfied with this recommendation? All right, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Effective the close of the conference tonight, because everything goes into effect at the close of this conference. Effective, and the conference closes, sine die, New Hope Church will be a station church. Thank you so very much. All right, recommendation number 2, grant St. John A.M.E. Church be demolished. Now, didn't we do this before? Unless there's some objection, we'll go by common consent since this was approved at the last annual conference. All right, thank you so much. Number 3, grant the merging of Mount Zion, is that correct? That's canceled.
Is the one you canceled?
The last one is the one that addresses this, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, go down.
That came
Let's
off your
go
report.
Coleman Chapel merger, Burnett Grove. Anybody here from Coleman Chapel?
Bishop,
Yes.
that should have been, I'm sorry, Pastor, but that should have been a future goal, Coleman Chapel merging with Mount Moriah.
Mount Moriah.
But that's a future
Yes, sir.
consideration. Correct, Pastor?
Let me ask you, how far in the future we talking about?
Next year, Pastor?
Yes, sir. Bishop, Lord willing, I've already addressed this. Matter of fact, I addressed that my first year there, my second year there, my third year. So I've already planted the seed.
Any members here?
Huh?
Any of the members here?
Sister Walker do?
Sister Walker do, how you feeling? Pretty good. How you feel about this merging?
She's a member of Mount Moriah.
Okay, you supported 10 years ago? Y'all do believe in future planning. Anybody from Mount Moriah here?
That's Coleman Chapel.
Anybody here from Coleman Chapel?
No, they're all at work.
Are you pastor both churches?
Yes, sir.
How you think Coleman Chapel feel about it?
Ms. Walker is trying to address you.
Well, their position on it at the time, sir, was there's as everybody knows that has a rural church. This old thing about the cemetery, and so I've already talked to them about the cemetery. It's not that we're going to dig up the cemetery, and they're not going to lose the privilege of the building. And I've already went with them with proposals on how we would, what we would do with the facility. And we could have the facility in honor of one of their loved ones. And so I went with them with different proposals. But they're still, I just left it on the table with that. And so we was going to address this back when God bless the dead, Sister Presiding Elder Whitman was here, but then she passed, and then now it's left on Presiding Elder
So
McFadden.
the issue with the cemetery?
With combining the churches.
Reverend Smith, you want to go out there and talk to them about the cemetery?
In my business, that'll be good work.
So I
Yes.
think it's a good idea with combining them, but I think Presiding Elder was gonna go back and talk to them about it. He hasn't addressed them with it, but I think it'll be a great.
I'm going to come to the elders. Let me hear Sister Wackadoo first. They said you wanted to address
You were
this
making a
issue.
statement about the merger.
I hear you.
They are opposed to it because a lot of their family are buried in the cemetery next to the church. And we were saying that we're not trying to take away your memories or things like that. We just, for finance reasons and fellowship reasons or whatever, they need to be combined. Mount Moriah is the larger facility for all of that.
All right, let me say this, and I think Bishop Guidry may be looking at this session. She is? Oh, yeah, she's had some, when she presided over the 8th District on these issues, and I'm going to have her get with some of these churches. But what I'm going to have us do is set up a Zoom meeting, if we can, between the congregants of both churches, the presiding elder, and I'll be on myself. and see if we can't move forward. We won't act on it at this conference, but we will meet during this year so that next year's conference we can take formal action. All right?
All right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yes, Elder.
Thank you, Bishop, and that was precisely my reason for saying future, is because I really hadn't had the opportunity to address it with the congregation, but I fully support everything that's been said by the pastor and by the congregant from Mount Moriah. I think both of those churches merging would be a very good thing, given the opportunity to speak with the congregation at Coleman Chapel. But I agree with everything you've said. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Yes.
One of our opportunities also when we think about congregations who have cemeteries but not so many people left is creating memorial chapels, right? People across the nation have chapels that are no longer used as sanctuaries, but they have renovated them with the monies that they've had, and they set up the cemeteries to where they are beautiful. People want to come in. It's like park-like settings. And then we allow the chapel to be that. Reverend Miles Walker has done that at Hutchinson Grove. We have no actual members there, but that sanctuary is set up as a memorial chapel so people can still come, bury their loved ones, but people also come in there to worship, to sit, to reminisce. It could be a beautiful space for people to have weddings in or any of those kind of things, especially in rural settings when we have a lot of land. If we rethink about what it means to merge a church and then open up another building that is multi-use building, then we are not necessarily tearing down what people have grown to love, but inspiring them to think differently about it.
And let me say this. Let me also say this, and I love the idea of the memorial as it relates to the cemetery. But you know, one thing you have to do in these situations, and it's hard, but we have to be realistic. Sooner or later, if nobody's joining the church, nobody's joining, but everybody's passing, sooner or later, all of us are going to be gone. So after a while, the building will be empty, and all of us will have joined the folk in the cemetery. So sooner or later, it's coming. It doesn't matter how soon or how later we intend to have it done. Sometime we're not going to be around when it's done. So, all right, start off with a new congregation in Grovetown. Now, let me say this. We have some properties which are abandoned in this conference. It's my hope that perhaps this year some of them we can sell. And I would recommend to the conference, not for action at this time, but I would recommend to the conference that the sale from some of those properties, that they would actually be used so that we can provide a salary for somebody, say in Grovetown area, to help us start a church. Now, brothers and sisters, if you're going to start a church, it's going to take some money. And you can't tell somebody to go start a church and give them nothing to start it with. So my recommendation would be to the Augusta Conference, if you sell some of these properties, the funds from the sale of some of those properties, you go to underwrite a pastor who you're going to send to grow, to develop, and grow a church. Any question on that?
No, sir, Bishop.
All right. Bethlehem merged with New Hope.
No, we talked about that.
Oh, that's done. All right. Any other? Yes, Elder Ingram?
So if we find money before we sell property, because we've been trying to sell the same property for 2 years now, so if we find money before we sell that property, do we have permission to plant a church in Grovetown? Like we write a grant and we get some money for that. We could use that money to plant a church in Grovetown.
What that does, it becomes a part of the responsibility of the conference trustees. When the properties are sold, the conference trustees meet and they take action on one, approving the sale of the property, and two, what the funds from those properties will go for.
I understand that. I'm saying, but before that happens, if we get a grant that has nothing to do with the sale of the property.
Oh, yeah, a grant.
Yeah, so if we get a grant, we can, do we have permission?
If a grant, if a grant, I want to say yes, but I don't want to give a carte blanche yes, because there's got to be some discussion with somebody on how much you're going to pay the person we're assigning that responsibility, who we're going to assign that responsibility. So it still would be a matter where the conference trustees need to meet. And I don't think anybody in the conference would be opposed to it, but it would fall under the responsibility of conference trustees. Now, if y'all would feel better if we can just go by common consent, unless you want to have a actual motion and vote, that if properties are sold or if grants become available, that the Augusta Conference is empowered to move forward with the possibility of starting a church in the Grove Town area. Is that common consent? Any objection?
None, Bishop.
All right, thank you so much. But make sure that that's noted in the minutes, all right? All right, let me thank the committee for a very fine job, Reverend Smith.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, thank you. We dealing with the living, all right. I'm gonna stop teasing Reverend Smith on it. All right, deeds, abstracts, and abandoned property. All right.
Persons with the deed, abstract, and abandoned property committee, would you please join me? Thank you. Bishop, we are going to go right down to the essential discoveries, findings, and achievement, unless you want me to go through the nature and the scope of the committee.
No, just give us a summary.
All right. We are recognizing all standard protocol that has already been established. The committee did not receive any documentation from the two presiding elders district for the 108th section of the Augusta, Georgia annual conference. Previous documents received by the committee have been turned over to the conference trustees to be forwarded to the bishop office. Our recommendations there were no recommendations was made for this 108th section of the Augusta, Georgia annual conference. This committee will continue to be in communication with the presiding prelate, Bishop Jackson's, conference trustees, and presiding elders regarding any updates that need to be made. Our goals and objectives, the goal for the conference trustees and property deeds and abstract committee is to be more transparent in communicating their actions and decisions regarding conference properties. The goal is to work to ensure all abandoned properties are sold and are decisions made on how to address these properties so that they aren't a bleak to the community where they are located. And Reverend Bishop Jackson, that is our final recommendation. We have properties that need to be torn down in areas and discarded, and we have not gotten to that.
If you could, next year in the report, bring us specific recommendations on properties to be torn down, and so that way the Congress would have to act on them individually. So,
yes, sir.
And that's going to take some time and study on the committee's part. So next year, if you just bring us a list of those, because I'd love to see that list.
Well, we need to reiterate it because we did do it last year, Bishop. We gave those numbers, the names, and the places, but we will reiterate it next annual conference per your request. Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
You're welcome.
All right, if there's no objection, this report be received as information. Any objection? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you for allowing us to serve.
All right. Let me give an update on Mars Brown College. Ms. Brown, are y'all a little chilly? Could you tell them we need to turn the air down or the heat up a little bit? Turn the air up. No, turn the air down. Well, whatever's gonna make it warmer, that's what we want. All right. When I came to the 6th District in 2016, Morris Brown College was on the verge of being forced to close. I think they had 7 students. They had no money, and every time in my office, they would buzz me and say, the president of Morris Brown College wants to speak to you. I would always cringe because I knew the president of Morris Brown College was calling me for money because Morris Brown needed money. And I said to the Board of Trustees at Morris Brown, I said to the conference trustees of the Atlanta North Georgia Conference that it made no sense for Morris Brown to have lost his accreditation at that time over 17 years ago and have not made any progress. And that if Morris Brown College did not make some progress by 2020, that I was going to try to get the trustees of the Atlanta North Georgia Conference to close down Morris Brown College. The trustees of the Atlanta North Georgia Conference is the sponsoring body for Morris Brown College. Morris Brown College was founded in the basement of Big Bethel Church. And so what we did at Morris Brown College, I persuaded the then president to step aside, and I want to say the former president did the very best he could as a president of Morris Brown College. When Morris Brown closed, they could not get anybody to take the position as president, so they got a retired superintendent to become the president of Morris Brown College. My brothers and sisters, the college president, their job is not academics. That's why you got a faculty. The job of the president of a college is primarily to raise money. That's it. And the problem is when you're the superintendent of a public school system, you really don't have to raise no money because the state tells you how much you're going to get. College presidents, you got to raise the money. And so I'm pleased to report that over the last couple of years, Morris Brown College has made tremendous progress. In fact, my birthday is is it Tuesday? Next Tuesday, April 26th. On April 26th, the Accreditation Committee is meeting, and I believe on April 26th, they will vote to formally give Morris Brown College back its accreditation. Morris Brown is already now able, the students who come to Morris Brown now are able, effective now, to receive financial aid. And in addition, at the General Board meeting in 2020, I persuaded the General Board to approve. Morris Brown had a $4 million debt, which we owed to the A.M.E. Church. And we got the General Board to approve to write off the debt with the proviso that any A.M.E. student who wants to go to Morris Brown College is able to go tuition free. All right? So if you've got a student that can't get in college, then you ought to send them to Morris Brown College. And Morris Brown is interesting. When I was in seminary a few years ago, Morris Brown had the largest enrollment of any college in Atlanta University Center. Morris Brown College had over 2,000 some students when I was attending seminary in Atlanta. And what is interesting is last year, Morris Brown did not have accreditation, couldn't get financial aid, but last year we had over 4,000 students apply to Morris Brown College. The problem was when they found out they could not get financial aid, they didn't come. And so I suspect that when the word goes out that Morris Brown College has its accreditation, I believe the floodgates are going to open again. So I'm very pleased with the progress that Morris Brown College is making. And in fact, I wanted to go to the A.M.E. Publishing House is dedicating its new building on May 21st in Nashville. And I wanted so much to be able to be to that dedication. The problem is Morris Brown College's graduation is May 21st. And I'm going to be at the Morris Brown College graduation because this will be the first class since 2003 where the students who graduate will graduate from an accredited institution. So on that, I am very pleased. So I'm very pleased with the progress that we're making at Morris Brown College. And, you know, I said this, and I don't know who's looking at this streaming, but one of the things I discovered when I came to Georgia, this thought didn't cross my mind. I just wanted to come to Georgia. In 2000, I wanted to come to Georgia. And my mind was so caught up, you know, I had Georgia on my mind. I didn't think about the fact that I was coming, I was going to be the chair of Morris Brown College, and it wasn't accredited. That didn't cross my mind. And also didn't cross my mind that I was going to be chair of the board of Turner Seminary. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. It is not easy. It's bad enough to be the chair of one board, but to be the chair of two boards at one time, I didn't have any hair when I came. But if I did, I'm sure I would have lost it all by now. And then to add to it, the chairman of the board at Turner Seminary is also a member of the board at ITC. So I'm the chair of two and a member of another on 3 boards. And all 3 of them needed money. Turner needed, and Dr. Davis says still do. Dr. Foster, you give her that check yet? Okay, it's coming. It's coming. Yeah, you give it to her now. I want her to put a smile on her face. Yes, you can say something, Dr. Davis. Now, I got a witness in here. I got Dr. Burgess in here to hear this.
She know I don't behave all the time. She prays for me all the time. Bishop, I wanted to say 2 things. As it relates to the Morris Brown increase, remembering if you're sending your students, if you're sending someone, Turner house the Morris Brown students. So so not only will they come to Morris Brown, but they will have an opportunity to live in Turner in Tablet Hall. We're in the process of doing some minor renovation, but at the 2nd floor we have apartments and efficiencies. The 3rd floor we have dorm rooms and then there are 4 efficiencies on the 3rd floor, and then there are 4 efficiencies on the 4th floor and dormitory rooms. And so we are in the process of making a whole online process, online intake. So we should have that finished by May, and so that everything will be online as it relates to residential housing at Turner. And the other thing I would like to say, Bishop, is I mentioned yesterday about the Shepherd's Fund. I am here with my laptop, able to process any application for a retired clergy, a retired clergy spouse, a widow, or a disabled clergy. I wanted to make sure I said it again because Bishop Mitchell contacted me. He wants me to present in the 12th. I presented in the 3rd district, and they were lined up, and I did several applications. I just don't want, when the report come out, that the 6th district numbers are not there. And I just wanted to make sure that I said again, if you need it, the criteria, it will pay medical bills, it will help bring homes up to ADA standards, it will also help purchase medicine. It does not give the individual $10,000 cash. What it does, it gives a grant to help retirees with limited income, and especially retirees who have not been able to pull down their annuity, that you'll be able to use that for hardship. So just wanted to share that again. Bishop, you have the check, Bishop? Oh, it's not A.M.E. retirement, not based on the criteria for the A.M.E. church. It could be a financial hardship. It can be, it varies. So you tell your own story of what is needed, but they reached out. Clergy, retired clergy, a retired clergy spouse, a widow, or disabled clergy. And some of the presiding elders, and especially presiding elder Tony, has submitted several names. Matter of fact, I got about 20-something more to process. But people have already been approved in Georgia, and want to make sure that you're aware that some of the clergy has already been approved, and it's going forward. Yes. And so they gave me 100 slots. Bishop, that's $1 million.
Well, we want to get all of them.
Okay. All right. Yes. Oh, well, you can do like Presiding Elder Tony. She sent me a list, and I just start contacting the list. So if you can do it that way, that'll be easier. Okay, go
Now, Dr. Davis came to me. You had a question, Reverend Smith?
Thank you. The certificate program is for clergy and lay, and so it is actually, it was designed with some of the lay leaders that I am connected with to make sure that you're aware. Now we're launching the certificate in theology and the certificate in church financial management. The certificate in financial management is being taught by a group of trained CPAs and their team. This is not clergy coming. These are trained individuals who are teaching the whole financial, and I forgot to mention that's who's teaching the church financial. A lay person, CPA, and their team who is trained and certified. I would have got you, Presiding Elder Burgess, but I know you're busy, and you'd have told me no. But
all right.
Let me come
now,
get my
Reverend
check.
Davis came to me last night and had something done at Turn. I think it's something with the roof. I said she needed $25,000. That's what I go through. So I want to give her today in front of everybody a check for $50,000. Now, I want y'all to know, and I'm saying because she's doing a terrific job, but I also want the 6th District to know that I'm extremely proud of what we do to support the academic institutions in the 6th District. The The 6th district gives Turner, I think it's about $300,000 a year, Dr. Foster? And we give Morris Brown $300,000? Yeah, so we spent over $500,000, and really we give more, but this is just what comes directly from the Episcopal District Office. And so, Dr. Davis, we're going to see that Turner Seminary is a premier institution, and I'm holding you responsible for it.
Hold me responsible.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Y'all got this
For
on
you,
camera.
Yeah, get that on camera. I want evidence.
Thank you so much. Bishop.
All right, thank you so much. And let me also say while I'm at it, yes, sir, Reverend Hart. Okay, let me also say this. I want to thank the 6th District because with all that we've had to do, we continue to be helpful across the church. So I want to thank the 6th District and the 16th District in Haiti. They had terrible disaster there, and the 6th District gave to the 16th District over $20,000, so I want to thank you for that. Then the 13th District, the hurricane they had there, we've given them over $15,000, and the 20th District had cyclone and some other stuff. We've given them over $20,000. So I want to thank the 6th District for all that you do to be a blessing to our brothers and sisters across the connection. All right, Reverend Hart.
Thank you, Bishop. I know we have some Brownites here. Anybody from Marsh Brown, will you stand up? And so, Bishop, I just want to first, on behalf of the Brownites, thank you for your leadership for helping to steer Marsh Brown to safer shores. And when I first got here years ago, the president of Marsh Brown would go to the various annual conferences. My statement and my question is, I do think we need to make sure we give Stanley Pritchard the props that he deserves for keeping Marsh Brown afloat. And just like Dean Davis is here today, my question is there any discussion for Kevin James or the president of Marsh Brown to visit the annual conferences so that the people can feel connected to Marsh Brown?
Yeah, thank you. Dr. James last year came to a couple of annual conferences. One of the things, he is overwhelmed now dealing with trying to get facilities and all. And this week, for example, he wanted to come to the Augusta conference because he was so excited about the possibility of our getting accreditation next week. But Transnational Accreditation Agency has a committee that's coming to Morris Brown this week. I don't know if it's either today or tomorrow, and he just felt he needed to be there to make sure everything was in place for that. But I do expect him next year. As a matter of fact, I suspect if Morris Brown gets accreditation next week, I'm sure he'll be to the Atlanta North Georgia Conference. But next year, at every annual conference, like we have the President Dean of Turner, I want to have the president of Morris Brown College to give a report. And so the reason I've given the report, because I knew he would not be able to be here. And as it relates to Dr. Pritchett, one of the things I had the board do was to commit that at the appropriate time we would have a celebration of his service. And so now that Morris Brown finally has some money, we intend to have that for him. Matter of fact, my inclination is that we would have a celebration for, in honor of Dr. Pritchett at next year's homecoming, which I think is October. Okay. All right. Thank you. And Dr. Pritchett is a good member of Big Bethel Church. All right. Any other questions on that? All right. Dr. Logan, how you feel this morning? Doing very well. All right, let me make Ministerial Efficiency Committee. Y'all have a report? All right. Thank you, sir.
Bishop Jackson, the 108th session of the Augusta Conference. Report of the Ministerial Efficiency Committee. The committee met with Reverend Richie Williams on Tuesday, April 18th at 8:30 p.m. After a complete, transparent dialogue with Reverend Williams, the committee voted for the following recommendation. Reverend Richie Williams is recommended to return to active itinerant elder status. Respectfully submitted, Reverend Daniel Thomas Jr., Reverend Rose Mikey, Reverend Pamela Hobbs, Reverend James Lawson. This is our report.
All right, the recommendation of the committee is that the Reverend would be returned to active status. Is there a motion? You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, thank you so very much, Reverend Williams. Welcome back to active status. All right. Now, brother and sister, before we adjourn for the midday service, and I'm a little disappointed a lot of our folk are not here this morning, but I wonder, our preacher for the noonday service is here. You're leaving this afternoon? Before she leaves now, I'm going to present her formally during the service. But let me simply say this. She is also a candidate to be... She beat you to it, Reverend McFadden. Red shoes. She's also a candidate for General Secretary, Chief Information Officer of the A.M.E. Church. And I want to give her a chance to address that before the service, and I want you all to know that you can look at the smile on my face and tell where I stand on that. Y'all gonna look at the smile on my face. I am fully with Reverend Burgess, and I just want her to come before the service to come and press her case to be the General Secretary of the church, Reverend Tyrone Burgess.
Thank you, Bishop Jackson. It is truly a pleasure to be in the 6th Episcopal District this morning, and I am grateful for the opportunity just to stand and to be able to, as Bishop says, press my claim as it relates to the office of General Secretary for the A.M.E. Church. Over the last couple of weeks, there has been a lot of conversation, particularly in the press, about how we need to look at credentials and qualifications for the people that we elect to positions in our church. So let me just say, I've pastored 7 churches in our Zion. I've been a good pastor. I have built properties. I have paid off debt. I've transformed congregations. I've been a good pastor. I do what good pastors do. But let me just also say that being the General Secretary of the A.M.E. Church does not require you to be a good pastor. So let me tell you what I've done in addition to being a good pastor in the A.M.E. Church. I have over 35 years of experience in business and in industry. I have managed the largest grant that the city of Nashville has ever had in the Head Start grant, $25 million. I know how to manage the work of administration. I have served in this church for over 32 years. I've been in the serving in the Episcopal ministry in the office of Bishop McKenzie for 17 years. I know how we do administration in our church.
I am a certified public accountant. I know how to count dollars. I have experience in that. And so when we look at who we are electing to this, popularity is good. Good pastors are great. But let's look at the experience that people bring to the table. I'm offering myself as a candidate for General Secretary of the African Methodist Episcopal Church because I have the ability to do the job. You'll hear a little bit more about it when I preach today in my sermon topic, but I do truly believe that God has called me and anointed me for such a time as this. I ask for your support, 6th District, in making sure that Tyranda Burgess is the next General Secretary of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Come on, let's build a brighter future, and let's start today.
Thank you so very, very much. And let me say that the Council of Bishops appointed me to be the chairperson of a task force dealing with the annuity situation we face. And I was very pleased because Reverend Burgess is a member of the General Board. She's specifically a member of the commission on retirement services. She was extremely helpful, and I feel comfortable with her business acumen helping us through this particular crisis that we do face. And I think it's critically important in a time like this, in the State of the Church report, I'm sure that's what they were making reference to when they said the church faces a problem of credibility. And my thing is, you're never going to solve a problem if you don't face it. And so one of the things I am going to do my very best to do is to see that we face it. And, you know, this particular annuity situation is something that began before most of us who are on the bench now were on the bench. And you've heard me say, which I say to pastors, when you go to a church, you inherit assets and liabilities. You know, get all you happy as you want to about the assets, but you also have to face the liabilities. And so my position is, I'm on the bench now, so I have a responsibility to deal with whatever we found. And that word responsible means being able to respond. And so it's my hope that we'll be able to respond to this situation. And again, I think Reverend Burgess will be a tremendous asset to the church now and then in the future. All right, now we're going to get ready to prepare for the noonday service. And y'all got a little break to go do what you got to do, and we'll be back here in 5-7 minutes. Yes, sir, Reverend Williams. Sure you can, Reverend Williams. I kind of thought you'd want to say something.
Can we put our hands together and give the Lord some praise this morning? Come on, y'all can do better than that. Give God glory. You're just glad to be alive. You're just glad to be able to wave your hand. Just come on, give him some praise this morning. Come on, get on your feet. Come on, y'all. Y'all know he deserves better than that. Come on, give God praise. He's worthy. He's worthy. Y'all know I don't talk much. I operate out of action. Actions speak louder than words. But I just want to address our Augusta conference this morning. I just want to lift up a couple of people that's familiar with my story these last 2 years. And I just want to recognize them and show my appreciation for their support. First of all, to our great esteemed leader, Bishop Reginald T. Jackson. Give him a hand, y'all. To Sister Christie in her absence, to Elder McFadden, thank you so very much. We've met regularly throughout these 2 years. To Reverend Lee, I don't know if he's listening, if he's in Savannah, whatever he's doing. To him, I want to lift him up, and especially my wife, praise the Lord, who was right by my side. Amen? Brothers and sisters, we are in serious times. We are in critical times. There is a need for healing. There is a need for deliverance. There is a need for restoration. I thank God for the leadership of our bishop, who is, I believe, in my own humble opinion, is led and guided directly by the Holy Spirit. I watched him over these last 2 years, and I'm anxious to sit at his feet. I'm anxious to learn from him. I'm anxious to be mentored by him. I never had a male mentor in my life, and he's the first one. I'm lifting him up because, my brothers and sisters, if you don't know by now, we have a great esteemed leader in the state of Georgia. That's for us. Y'all quiet. That's for us. Dr. Lewis, do you hear me? That's for us. So I want to thank him. Right now, I ask that y'all would just keep me in your prayers. But my focus right now is, as far as pastoring and where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do, I'm not worried about it. I'm leaving that in the hands of my daddy here and my daddy in heaven. Say amen, somebody. That's up to them. They send me wherever they want to send me. But my number one focus right now is to encourage you to self-care, to take care of yourself, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Number two, my other priority is to stand side by side with Dixon and to watch and protect my bishop's back with my own life if I need be. We are in critical times. There's a lot of work to be done. He's going to be on the road. We got to work with Stacey Abrams and other folks that he feels and I feel and we feel that's going to be essential to our growth as a people here in Georgia. So brothers and sisters, let us keep each other encouraged. Thank you so very much for those who prayed for me for real. For those who prayed for me for real, I thank you so much. I felt your prayers. I felt the support. I may not have talked to you. You may not have even called me, but y'all, I felt your prayers. And I felt your support. And sometimes that's all it takes. Amen? So this is the most that y'all ever going to hear me talk. I'm finna sit down now. Bishop, thank you so very much. God bless you, my brother, and let us continue on in the faith. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Williams. And I want to commend you for doing what you needed to do to make sure that you're in a position to serve God and his church. Thank you so very much. Let me acknowledge the presence of our General Secretary, Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Cooper. I think he's over there talking. And member of the Judicial Council, Dr. Thomas Best. Thank y'all both for being here this morning. All right, let us prepare for the midday service. Y'all can come set up the stage and we'll be good to go. I know, but I do that every
please
conference.
don't do it. We've already took care of it. Because I didn't take no money. Kiwi is a generous guy.
He all right.
He won't even charge, he didn't even charge me no money.
Okay.
But what we do have is a few
Okay.
that we can sell. They
I'll announce
$15, as well as everyone who can purchase one. I have, if they
You gotta
purchase it,
pick it up.
see me.
Okay.
Okay, I have them.
My brothers and my sisters, let me say this. Shh. I do want to encourage us to get a copy of the souvenir journal. Those who have an ad in this journal, please see Reverend Jordan, because I think they have one for you. And if you haven't got one, please get one out in the lobby. If you would, that would be so kind. Yes, sir, Brother Henderson, love. I mean, I keep thinking about the circuit.
Yeah.
thought they named the circuit after you. Well, I'm gonna come down to the church one Sunday unannounced.
You welcome. You welcome.
What time is y'all service?
What, 10 o'clock? Sunday school at 10 and worship service at 10:30.
Okay, I'm gonna come in unannounced and pop in. Sit in the. I'm gonna sit next to her. All right. She vouched for y'all good the other day. She pressed her case. All right. Thank y'all so much for coming. Thank you.
Bishop Jackson, we have Judge Carletta Sims Brown. She's running for.
I wish I.
You know.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Are you in the primary?
Yes, sir. Primary will decide my race.
Okay, you're May 24th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
My brother and sister, can I have your attention, please? Shh. Can I have your attention, please? If I can ask you to take your seat just for one hot second. Well, not one hot second, but a minute. As you know, we have our primary in Georgia on May 24th. Dr. Best mentioned yesterday, and it really bothered me, went to sleep with it on my mind last night. Fulton County, for example, which is the largest county in the state where most blacks in the state live, I was very distressed to hear that most of the judges in Fulton County don't look like us. And so we have also here in, I think this is Richland County, election primary on the 24th, and one of the candidates for judge came by to see us this morning, and I want to give her a chance to address you and ask you to give serious consideration to her. You want to present her, Dr. Hall?
Thank you, Bishop. It's just my distinct pleasure to present to the Augusta, Georgia Annual Conference Judge Carletta Sims Brown, who is a candidate for office. She can speak for herself, but she has proven herself to be a public servant that is trustworthy and has a heart for the people. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Judge Carletta Sims Brown.
Good morning, and I won't take but a minute. Welcome to Augusta, those of you who do not live here, and congratulations on your 2022 annual conference. I want to say hello because it's hard to get out and visit all the churches that we'd like to visit when on the campaign trail, particularly because I am the incumbent chief judge of the Civil and Magistrate Court. So my first responsibility is to run that court. So I wanted to make sure I got out and met as many as I can in a group setting. What we do in that court is really touch the lives of the people of Richmond County, because we do everything from dispossessory to small claims, civil claims, abandoned motor vehicles, ordinance, all the criminal warrants that are issued in Richmond County, and the bond hearings, the pretrial hearings. And so we just touch lives in the community. Part of my job as a lifelong Democrat, as a 33-plus year practicing attorney, is to make sure that wherever I go, I try and make a difference in our community and do something that will improve the greater good. So as a result, in this court, the goal of what we're doing is entering partnerships that will help bring rise and support the services and the citizens that come before the court. One of the greatest examples is we have a dispossessory partnership with the Housing and Community Development that we are giving emergency and rental assistance right from the courtroom every day, that's cutting back on the number of dispossessories. Those same kind of programs are available to get a pretrial services program to bridge the gap between especially our young people when they get arrested and when they're indicted. So because this is your conference, I wanted those that are from Richmond County in particular to get to know me, as well as those who may have friends, well, obviously friends and contacts here in Richmond County, to share with them, to at a minimum to try to get to know who I am, to look at the advancement of the